Are games operas made out of bridges? Who suggested this? And what on earth were they banging on about? Hello, this is Model Life, a channel dedicated to the models we use to understand and predict the world around us. Models are imperfect representations of the real world, or at least things within that real world. There are lots of different types of models, and it is their imperfections that make them so useful. Take this model train. It would be pretty hard to play with if it was a perfect copy of the real thing. All models are wrong, but they are useful, and it is their wrongness that makes them useful. We use computers to run numerical models that are based on equations that represent the real world processes that make the world work. These are useful for scientists like me who want to understand how rivers change and want to predict when they might flood. But models are also fun, and at the heart of some of the most popular video games are models. That is because video games are operas made out of bridges. Games developers are amazing. They do not get near enough credit for what they do. The director of the New York Games Center, Frank Lantz, put it best during his brilliant Hearts and Mind presentation at the Games Development Conference, link in the card above. Making games combines everything that's hard about building a bridge with everything that's hard about composing an opera. Games are operas made out of bridges. Operas made out of bridges. I find it such a simple yet perfect metaphor and a beautiful image too. Let's explore this with an example. Using maths and physics, we can find an equation that will tell us how far a projectile will travel. We just need to know a few things. The velocity at which the projectile is released at, the angle it's directed, and the strength of gravity that will pull that projectile back down to the ground. We can use these equations to make a model. We could put them in a spreadsheet and experiment with changing the values and see how that changes the distances the projectile will travel. We can begin to make a game out of this model by introducing a target. For example, you need to make the projectile land 500 meters away from where it was launched. Everyone gets just one go at putting the numbers in, and the closest person wins. Not the most exciting game given, but a game nonetheless. However, let's imagine you're a games developer. You want people to be attracted to playing your game, possibly paying for it, and playing it over and over again. When we consider what is useful for achieving the objectives of that games developer, what we have is a start, but it's still a long way off. We need to start doing some worlding, which is making a setting to place our game in. It gives it a look and a feel and a narrative to the game that sets the boundaries for how it works. First, we make it more visual, rather than just putting some numbers in and skipping straight to the result. We can also add some lingerie, slowing it down and showing the players how the projectile flies through the sky. We can then put the target in the game, show the player how close they got, and provide them some feedback to encourage them to try again. Now what we have is beginning to feel a bit more like a game, but we still don't have a world. We need to create a story. Why are we firing our projectiles at that target? Are we trying to destroy it? And if so, why do we want it blasted so badly? We could do something obvious, like you're in charge of a catapult crew and you're lobbing flaming rocks at a castle wall. But that's a bit cliche, and you want your game to stand out from the other games, and you want it to be fun. Let's do something original. You play as a disgruntled avian. Some evil swines have stolen your eggs and are taunting you from the top of their lookouts of their ramshackle forts. For some reason, you can't fly, but you do have catapults. No idea why, but you also don't have any rocks for the catapult, so your only resort is to launch yourself at those smug hogs. We now have our game, Feathered Furioso. Okay, So Feathered Furioso maybe isn't all that original, but it is helpful for us when considering what goes into making a game. It all started with our model, based on that equation to predict the trajectories of projectiles. This is the maths and engineering, the bits that are hard about building a bridge, and the bits that make the basic game function. Well, that maths and engineering exists in a virtual world, with its own scenography and artwork, with a backstory, probably some backing music that fits the mood of the game, which makes it entertaining and makes you feel a certain way. These are the bits that are hard about composing an opera. Games are beautiful and engaging as they draw together these two parts, the maths and the art, to create new worlds for us to enjoy and escape to. Whether we'd like to admit it or not, models do this too. Models create their own worlds where the rules are slightly different to the real world. If we go back to the model at the heart of Feathered Furioso, it only works in a world that is completely flat, and a world where there is no wind or air resistance which is affecting that projectile. Dr. Erica Thompson, a Senior Policy Fellow in the Ethics of Modelling and Simulation at the London School of Economics, calls these virtual worlds model land. Like games, they might tell us something about the real world, but they're not the real world. I think sometimes they're often regarded as worlds that are entirely made out of bridges. But we do have worlding going on in our models. Models are actually bridges held together by operas. Operas that we often ignore or don't really understand. To make our models more useful, maybe as modelers might learn more about composing operas. Please do help to support the channel and help me grow it. I really do appreciate every like the video gets and for everybody who subscribes to the channel. You can find those buttons just here below the video. But until next time, stay dry out there.